You were probably never taught how to learn and remember English vocabulary in the long term if you tell yourself, words don't come to mind when I speak English. In this video, you'll be getting 3 of the most powerful vocabulary learning techniques that will immediately upgrade your English learning. Techniques that I use to learn to speak 5 languages fluently and that my students use to improve remembering and exponentially expanding their vocabulary. And if you stay until the end, the third one is going to be something I've never revealed on my social media before. Now, one of the reasons you might think words don't come to mind when I speak English is because you're a passive learner. Passively learning English is extremely ineffective when it comes to learning to speak English fluently. If you often look at grammar rules, complete grammar exercises in textbooks and online, watch hundreds of vocabulary videos on social media where teachers explain to you vocabulary, taking notes, writing example sentences, and then spending a lot of time rereading them, you're probably learning English passively. The reason why this is so dangerous to do is because you're just piling up knowledge. And if information and knowledge was enough from all the millions and millions of YouTube videos, wouldn't you think everybody would be walking around speaking English confidently at a proficient level? Hey English learner, welcome to my channel. My name is Chubby. I'm an English fluency, learning and language anxiety coach. This is a channel for English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable and speak English more comfortably, confidently and freely with the help of listening and spoken interactions. So these are topics you're interested in. I'm uploading videos every week, short videos almost every single day. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get weekly or daily updates on all the content I upload here. If your dream is to speak English fluently without thinking or hesitating about what is the next word to use or not being scared of making mistakes, these can be done by recalling memories of using grammar and vocabulary in conversations when you are using English. Think of fluency in English as a never-ending puzzle. People who speak English fluently at an advanced level still have gaps, but most of the puzzle pieces are interconnected and can be easily remembered. When you're studying separate words, which is what most of the videos on YouTube or other social media websites show you, you're going to have completely isolated, weak pieces that you won't know how to connect. Effective English communicators can speak English fluently and confidently because they all go through the following 3 stages. And I should probably make a separate video about each of these 3 stages. They store vocabulary effectively, which is done through effective vocabulary learning strategies that I talk about in this and in this video, and through carefully constructed systematic review that helps my students explode their fluency and exponentially grow their speaking vocabulary inside my fluency program, the Proficiency Fortress. And effective English communicators can effectively retrieve vocabulary and use it whenever they need it in conversations because they focused on these first 2 stages, so they could naturally know when to use what in a conversation. Now let's start with why you're hesitating or feel blocked when you speak English. You're probably nervous. Research shows that high levels of fear, stress, anxiety, confusion and overwhelm can lead to the neural pathways being blocked towards the hippocampus, which is part of your brain responsible for learning and memory. And it's totally normal to feel nervous in a conversation if you're not used to having conversations, or if you're scared of making mistakes, or you're not risking using the new expressions or a new structure that you've just learned but you might not be sure how to use, at least not with 100% certainty. But continuing to doubt yourself, always trying to speak English perfectly when you're just learning the language, never taking risks of using the expressions or the grammar structures that you've learned, and always being concerned about what other people will think about you when you speak English, is not only going to seriously damage the efficiency you communicate with, but also your mental health. Remember, you're just learning a second language. What I see helped tremendously my students with working on their mindset and feeling calm and relaxed before and during conversations, in and outside class, in their real lives, were three things. Lowering your expectations towards yourself. And I understand that you'd love to speak English fluently, freely, as if it was your first language, but it still takes some effort to put sentences together, think about what the words are that you want to use. But I've got a tip for you for that in the second point. Practice having conversations in a safe space, surrounded by incredibly supportive people who encourage you to take scrappy, messy, doubtful, imperfect action so you can practice how to communicate better and then put sentences together. Just like with anything that we humans do, feeling nervous while speaking is a habit. And there are so many incredibly effective ways you could use to replace that habit with the habit of feeling calm and relaxed while speaking English. I've got this video for you where I'm sharing with you some of the simplest ways you could build and then maintain language learning habits. Knowing words and chunks of language is the key to success in second language learning. We humans don't communicate in words. We're not robots, but even robots speak continuously nowadays. But this is crucial. It's 2023 at the time of the recording of this video, but I'm still in shock when I see students using all these old school, traditional, ineffective ways to study words from word lists and watch vocabulary videos with a list of words and expressions that are completely out of context. Just think about it. How are you going to remember how to use the vocabulary you're learning if you haven't seen enough examples of how that word or expression is used in the first place? And this is why so many people hesitate. They don't want to make a mistake, but they are translating from their first language word by word, which is one of the most common reasons for making mistakes. If they'd learned English from context, which is what I talk about in this and in this video as well, they would speak with much fewer mistakes, with much less hesitation and much more naturally. Here's what I did to sound natural and make very few, if no mistakes at all, when I speak English. And remember, my first language is Hungarian, which is a completely different language from anything you've ever seen. I spent a few hours a day attentively watching videos, episodes of series or movies. The key here is attention. I wasn't doing the laundry, listening to what my family was gossiping about, or cooking at the same time, or driving. I was fully focused on what I was watching. But here's the catch, because a lot of struggling English students spend time watching videos, movies and series, but they still can't remember vocabulary in a conversation because of these two things. They use subtitles, sometimes not even in English, which means they're not practicing their listening skills, which is the ultimate skill that will help you speak English so much more fluently. Because they want to focus so much on understanding the story. And they're too focused on the story, what's going on and what the characters do, instead of what the characters say and what language they use. Your attention is your superpower. And I promised I would make a video about this because I got so many requests from the community. So watch out for one in the next couple of weeks. And if you like this topic and you'd like to hear more about how to explode your vocabulary, improve your speaking and listening skills so you can become a fluent, confident English speaker as well, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get my weekly updates on everything I share on this channel. When I was watching movies, series, and I was watching like 10 of them at the same time in my teens and then early 20s, was that I was focusing a bit more on what they were saying. I got extremely curious about the sentences or the phrases that the characters were using, and then took notes of just a few of them so I don't feel overwhelmed, so that I can then spend some time in the mornings reviewing some of those, imagining situations I could use them in, and then making sure that I use them in conversations. This way I could focus on learning expressions and phrases, so I didn't make mistakes with prepositions, or I wasn't hesitating, I wasn't thinking of what the next word is, because I had them as a unit in my mind, in my memory. The next stage is to make sure you review the vocabulary that you learned from these movies on a regular, systematic basis. Look at them, watch them, listen to them, engage with the vocabulary in all kinds of contexts, create quizzes for yourself. So you see a lot of examples of how those expressions are used in real context, so that you will feel much more confident in using them in your future conversations. Effective English learners have regular, consistent conversation practice, partially because of this, so they could make and strengthen those memories of using those expressions and phrases in certain situations. Now, here's what I found to be an extremely effective way in reviewing vocabulary in a really simple way that allowed me to use a wider range of vocabulary, so I didn't have to complain words don't come to mind when I speak English. And one of the biggest mistakes struggling English students make is that they don't review vocabulary at all. When the way you learn anything in life, tying your shoelaces, lifting a spoon, riding a bike, driving a car, is by consistently repeating actions over time. Spend 10-15 minutes a day, multiple times a day if you can, asking yourself questions about how you could use that vocabulary.
Yeah, cool guys. And I was trying to communicate the fact that I wasn't immediately going to blab on air about it. Because in the past I have slightly put my foot in it with Radiohead Secrets. So I definitely wasn't going to say anything about it, but I also didn't want to miss out, right? Yeah. And Ed just texted me back, oh yeah, I heard that rumor.
For example, if you'd like to learn this expression, put your foot in it from the video, which basically means say something embarrassing. You can ask yourself all kinds of questions like, when was the last time you put your foot in it? Or who put their foot in it with you when they were speaking to you? What would someone tell you when they are putting their foot in it? Using these kind of questions allows your brain to learn the vocabulary so much more effectively, creating, maintaining all those memories of how to use this word, in what context, in what meaning. And you could use all these memories when vocabulary will flow so much more naturally in your future conversations, because you will know what to say and when to say that. So you don't have to say, words don't come to mind when I speak English again. And this can be done in like 10-15 minutes a day. Is 15 minutes of regular, consistent, systematic review worth it, so that you make fewer mistakes, speak more naturally, and hesitate less? And if you'd like to see how this works in practice, see some examples, some trainings on how to learn from context so you could speak more naturally, you can always download my free 30-day learning plan from the link in the description below. And thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. I appreciate you. I know so many people haven't got to this point of the video, and I honestly can't wait to share with you more about speaking English fluently in another one. Hey English learner, my name is Chubby. I forgot. Now, one of the youth through reading flowed their fluency and exponentially go percent with 100% certainty. So you can become first, and you can become that next. For example, if you want to remember this vocabulary, saying something